Hey guys, what up? It's your boy Khan, TDK, Mr. So Real, and I know a lot of you have been waiting a very long time for me to go back into my Real Talk series, and as many of you know, I actually don't really like doing these just because I don't want to come across as like a hater or somebody who's just talking shit. Generally in the Real Talks, I try to come up with some ideas and not just be one of those naysayers that just talks a lot of crap. So hopefully I can continue that trend, but today we're not pulling any punches, and we're calling pretty much everybody out. So if you have sensitive feelings, if you feel like you easily feel upset and maybe attacked by people, you probably don't want to watch this video. So without further ado, let's get into this Real Talk about The Division and potential. All right, so this week has been a pretty, I guess, game-changing week for The Division. They recently announced their year 2 plans, or some of them were leaked by the looks of it, and they announced a few things for this double XP, or not really XP, but double rewards weekend that they had for the HVTs. And to put it mildly, a lot of people were quite upset, disappointed, and turned off by the game, including Marco Styles. He recently put out a video and he almost said that he was done with The Division and leaving the game, and I'm sure that is a very, very large wound towards the game, because he's one of the more famous and, in my opinion, one of the best YouTubers who covered The Division. His quality was always good, so I wish him the best of luck with whatever he does. I'm not a hater. I was generally someone who enjoyed his content, and I'm sure a lot of you guys thought, pretty highly of his stuff, at least from a YouTuber or a content creator perspective. His stuff was top notch, and I can't knock him for that. Now, getting on to the real subject of the game, we're talking about potential. And this is a word that comes up a lot when people talk about The Division and their obsession with The Division and why they've stuck with it through all of the ups and downs. Is they always say, the game had a lot of potential. The game has a lot of potential. There's so much potential that the game has, but, and there's always that but. There's always that but that comes walking into the room and just kills the conversation. And the question I guess I have for a lot of people is, how long are you going to be surprised by the way that things work out for The Division, and how long are we going to keep relying on the potential card? And it seems more and more day by day people are starting to give up. Now, is that to say that the game is dead, mortally wounded? Maybe. But there are still people who play the game and enjoy the game and like the game. I can tell by all the people buying those emotes. I would suggest you stop. But that is what it is. But let's really get into it from the jump, straight off the rip. The game has deceived the shit out of everybody. The E3 trailer was amazing, and everybody bought into it, and they say, wow, that E3 trailer just looks sick. I still remember that E3 trailer. Watching the rolly ball go around the car gave me goosebumps. The fucking drone was dope, telling me you could have a drone with the iPad and all that other stuff. Man, people were hyped for that. And the graphics in that trailer were just amazing. People were saying, this is incredible. Watching shoot the paint, and then, oh man, and it was just great. But what did we get? Well, we didn't get that iPad connectivity. That stuff got shut down. The graphic fidelity was retracted. It wasn't as great as it could have been, or as it was proposed to be. The betas were a little bit hit or miss. The map was quite small. It seemed like a lot of running around, took a lot of bullets to take somebody down. And then when the game launched, we had the Midas issue. First week, people got the Midas. They saw that you could have pretty much infinite super, and then it got nerfed pretty hard, and the Midas never ever became useful. And that was, just kind of that. Like, from the beginning, the game has had issues, and the truth was never actually on the table. Now, the biggest problem for me with the Division was always the poor server service. The lag was always ridiculous, and it got worse with time, which was actually really strange. You'd figure the more time they spend with making these games, the better quality the servers would hold up. But for, I guess, for reasons that I'm sure we all know, the servers got worse. And if you really don't understand why the servers got worse, just really think about it. We got a lot of mic and delta errors because the servers just couldn't really handle a lot of what was going on. And the reason for that was because people started quitting the game. There just weren't enough people playing the game, and Ubisoft, who puts the game out, I'm sure they saw all of that, and it's pretty much their money that goes out. Massive is contracted to put the game out, but Ubisoft as the publisher provides a lot of that money. And Ubisoft is kind of, I'm not gonna say notoriously cheap, because Assassin's Creed does well, and they get a lot of privileges and bonuses, and they get quite a bit of stuff. But it seemed to me like the Division just didn't make it out of the gate so well. It made it out of the gate and then kind of tripped over its own ankle and broke its leg because people just stopped playing. And because of the bugs and the hacks and the glitches and all of that stuff, it really put a damper on the game, and the longevity was in question well before the 3-month mark. So what goes back into, the conversation is always, well, they've got bugs, they've got issues, but it's got so much potential. And that's always going to be the crutch of a lot of people, myself included. I'm not going to say that, I never said that, because I did. I've always felt that the game had a lot of potential, and it's sad. It's really sad that, all of that potential has gone to waste. Now, in real talk fashion, salute to the art team at Massive. If you guys ever hear this, I always speak highly of the art team and the visual team. I think they did an amazing job with the maps. I think they did an amazing job with the atmosphere, the lighting team. Those people who put all of that together, bravo to you. I will not say anything negative about you guys. You always do a great job. The graffiti, the artwork, all of that stuff is always top notch. And yeah, I love that stuff. But when it comes to the gameplay and the mechanics and the balancing and all that stuff, that shit is a hot mess. I really wish there was, something more I could say to kind of hype it up for the Division, to say that, it possibly has a chance to come back. But when you think about the quote unquote community, the people who play the game and constantly have talked shit about it, you have these people that say, oh man, I love the game, but now fuck the game, I don't want to play this anymore, this game is stupid, they haven't fixed this, they haven't fixed that, they haven't done this, and what are they doing with this? There are too many chefs in the kitchen, straight up. First off the bat, there's too many chefs in the kitchen. You got people from Reddit, you got people from the forums, you got people on YouTube, you got their internal teams, you've got people who are average players to not so good players crying on forums, and you got great players who are saying, no, it's good like this. And you have so many chefs in the kitchen. Who are they supposed to listen to? There isn't really a clear objective, I think, for the development team. I think they want to make everybody happy, but they can't. And my honest suggestion to Massive, if they ever hear this, is pick a side and go with it. No matter what the community says or what A, B, or C group of people says, pick something and stick with it and go with it, and then to hell with it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you can't make everybody happy, and that's kind of the problem. So when we really start thinking about what else is wrong with the Division outside of the servers, you have to start thinking about the people who do play the game and really make it a horrible experience for a lot of people. You have people who talk a lot of garbage. They clap over bodies, say racist things, say sexist things, say homophobic things. And, you know, when you play a game and you're trying to have a good time and you're still kind of lost because the game never really explains the PvP very well, but they forced a lot of people to go into the dark zone if they wanted to get good gear. And when the incursions and stuff came out, you had a lot of people cheating to get the best gear, and they would take that best gear and go into the dark zone and, you know, utterly destroy the people who could not cheat or did not cheat. And it was just excuse the pun, it was a division between the people who wanted to play the game as best as it was intended and the people who decided to play the game as they thought was the best way to go. And the community itself has pretty much ripped itself apart. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, you know, YouTubers are to blame. If this game had come out 10 years ago before all these YouTubers were ruining it, to some degree, I'll say that plays a part into it. But at the end of the day, it's up to the player to decide whether they want to use those cheats. And if the community didn't want to, if the community looked at the cheats and said, you know what, that's bullshit, collectively we're not going to use it, you only really need a couple bad apples, you know, to ruin the whole bunch. And I don't know Massive's turnaround for fixing bugs and hacks and glitches and stuff like that. I'm sure they were trying their best, but open world games are very difficult. There's no open world game that comes out that doesn't have glitches and bugs. It's funny how GTA often gets a pass, even though that game has quite a few bugs, and they have people who pretty much pioneered the open world genre, and they still have issues with open world. And you have a smaller company that is trying to do something and has a lot more variables than GTA, with the inclusion of new weapons, new gear sets, new talents and stuff like that. And all of that really changes the shape of the game and changes a lot of what has to happen behind the scenes. So blaming YouTubers for letting people know this exploit or this hack or whatever is going around, be careful. It's two sides to that coin. There's the be careful, and then there's the you should use it so that you can be OP. Now, one of the other reasons that I think the game has had a bit of a hiccup is because the gameplay just hasn't really done it. And I've been talking about this for quite a long time. The gameplay just doesn't really hit where it should be, and people don't feel powerful. This was the reason why a lot of people complained about the NPCs being so great. In the regular game, you felt like you were doing something, you could kill enemies, but you go into the dark zone and you would get murdered ASAP, and you didn't feel powerful. And you know, going back to games like Destiny, which were in the same boat. Destiny started off in a pretty rocky situation. A lot of people didn't like the story. They didn't like a lot of the things that were going on. They felt bored. It was too grindy. And that game has changed itself and turned itself around, and people feel powerful when they play the game. And I think that because the Division doesn't really make you feel all that powerful, people tend to move towards cheats and hacks and whatever to feel better about their character and themselves, because I mean, ultimately that's how people want to feel when they play video games. So really and truly, when we think about the community that we've built on a game that has not really lived up to its advertisements and its potentials, and when you look at the player base dwindling day after day, we really have to start to think about who is to blame. because we often point the finger at each other. Players point the fingers at YouTubers. YouTubers point the finger at bad, evil players, and they also point the fingers at developers. Developers try not to point the finger at anyone, and it's really a lose-lose situation because the communication, I think, for a lot of people haven't been that great. Now, it has gotten better. I will say that it has gotten better since the summer, after they had their stern talking to at the whatever meeting it was that they had. Their PR got a little bit better. They started to open up a little bit more and share a little bit more. But before that, it was really smoke and mirrors behind closed doors. We can't say this, and I'm almost wondering if that's the same deal with year 2. Year 2's announcement was a leak. Someone leaked an image that had a kind of timeline, semi-timeline of what was going to happen with year 2, and they tried to respond to it quickly. Personally, I think that was a bad idea. I think that they should have just kind of dummied up and said, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. That's obviously a fake or whatever, or just denied it. And then come out when they were a little bit closer to schedule, when they had some things kind of solidified, and then started talking about it, and then put some different dates in there, and they could say, you know, this is what it actually was, and those were some leaks, and somebody did this and that. I think that might have been the better option, but telling us that new content won't actually come until August, and it's already March, is a long stretch for people to kind of wait. And then the things that you actually mentioned don't really seem like DLC. They just seem like updates. And I think that's what really turns a lot of people off. And you can't really blame a lot of the players for being turned off with so many good games that are already out. When there was nothing to play, people waited patiently and chalked it up to potential, and hoped and prayed that the game would turn out better and be more of what they had hoped. But as time has proven, a lot of this has turned into almost a money pit for Ubisoft, which is why I think they're charging so much for their microtransactions. And as much as I love the game, and as much as I'd like to see the game flourish, I have to say this out of good conscience because I am a consumer first. Don't buy the microtransactions. They're too expensive, and even if the content for year 2 is supposedly free, they're making that money off of the microtransactions. And honestly, $8 for an emote, for one emote, is ridiculous. And I don't think that that's fair. I think that if Ubisoft wanted to make money off of the microtransactions, they should have cut the prices at least in half. At least in half. And had a lot more emotes. And they would probably have made a lot more money than selling one emote for $8. Then yeah, there are some that are $5 and some that are like $2.50 and $3. But really, when you really look at that, $8. And I did the math. I actually did the math. I tallied up all of it. In its worst case scenario, if you were buying the coins for, was it 500 for $5 or something like that. And it was a ridiculous amount of money. It was like well over $200 if you wanted to buy everything. It was closer to like $300. And that's kind of insane. So I've seen all of this coming. I knew that the game would not hold up if the devs didn't add some variety, if they didn't add content, because without content, without variety, you can't have longevity. People can only play the same modes, the same maps, and the same things over and over again. But as soon as they introduce a new mode or a new map, what happens? People try to find the easiest way to get the best rewards, and they cheat, and they kill the game. So if you're one of those people that has cheated and done everything you can to promote bad play, clapping on bodies, making people feel bad, not actually helping anybody, and talking shit online, and just doing everything you could to be the best of the best in the division, know that you've put the game on borrowed time. And the devs will try their best, because they want a job, to keep the game going for as long as they can. But ultimately, if the player base is not happy, and if the community doesn't feel rewarded in terms of feeling good about themselves when they play the game and constantly having to deal with hackers and cheaters, then that falls on two parties. It falls on the people who use the hacks and the cheats, and it falls on the developers for not addressing it quickly enough. Now, bravo, kudos, and an applaud to them for getting on that fix for The Last Stand. They fixed it in record time, like a week, less than a week. And Last Stand is a lot of fun. I recommend that everybody go and play Last Stand. It's a lot of fun. But if we have a community of people that continually try to break the game and talk shit and leave messages on forums saying, do people still play this game? This is garbage. With that kind of attitude, what do you expect?
Bravo's neutral.
I'm a game player who loves the Division, and I kind of disappointed that year 2 is not going to shape up to be something as amazing that we all hoped, because we all saw the potential. But sadly enough, doesn't seem like it's going to live up to that. And we can still point our fingers and blame who we want to blame for it, but at the end of the day, if they don't make that money, they can't pay the people to work. But if they charge some ridiculous amount of price for minimal content with no promises and a track record of poor performance, you can't really expect people to want to shell out money. It's kind of a catch-22. So which horse are you going to bet on? Or are you just going to leave and play something else? Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know. How do you feel about the Division, its year 2, and the future of the game? I am Khan, TDK, Mr. So Real. Hope you enjoyed this real talk. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.